Preliminary business model. A preliminary business model identifies and relates the business functions and organization units that perform those functions. This section shows how to develop this preliminary stage of the business model, which will then be completed with the information obtained in the enterprise survey phase in section 3.3. 3. Document the organizational structure. In this step we document the structure, individuals, locations and functions of the organization. This will make it easier to find out who we should interview and what data needs to be shared among the company. Gather recent organizational charts, and enter the information into the toolset. We should get a copy of any available organization charts with information about the departments, positions and people. If there are no charts available, we must create them ourselves. Although it is important to get the details right in these charts, we shouldn't spend too much time in this step, a couple of days should suffice. Identify business locations and relate to organizational units. Business locations can be stored in the EAP database in two different ways depending on how the company is structured. The location should be stored as an attribute of an organizational unit if most functions are in a single location, or if different business locations have an independent organizational structure.
However, if several locations are involved in EAP or if one single organizational structure spreads across different business locations, then the locations must be stored as a separate data structure and not a simple attribute. Divide each functional area into its subfunctions by asking the question, what is the function? Or what does the activity name mean? After having identified the major functional areas of the company, in this step we define them in terms of what functions exist in those functional areas. Function names should be descriptive, especially at greater levels of detail. We should also write of each function in case it doesn't have subfunctions. A function needs no description when it is composed of subfunctions, since these collectively are the function's description. Rearrange all functions hierarchically to improve the business model. Here we rearrange the business functions hierarchically, having the object of the function at the root. This means that, for instance, the function register product would have product in the root and then a branch with the function register. The product could also have other functions or branches in the hierarchy, for example sell, buy. The reason behind this rearranging of the functions is so that the functions in the business model are associated with the objects without any order in particular, since the order doesn't matter in this case. Ensure quality of the business model and continue to make it better. The less dynamic aspects the business model, the more quality it has. This is because the model should not be susceptible to change, but instead be stable over time. To make the preliminary model stable, we have to keep out volatile variables such as who performs a function, how, when or where it is performed, its importance, the technology used and the flow of inputs or outputs. Establish the stability of the business model by continually evaluating the goodness criteria and by asking how the business has evolved over time. Only by studying the evolution of the business over the years can we attempt to anticipate the path the company may take in the future and its stability. Top management should be asked questions about changes in company strategy that have affected how the company works. If most changes in the past have only affected the details and business functions, then it shouldn't affect the general structure of the enterprise, and consequently the business model created with EAP should be useful for many years to come. However, if there have been profound changes of strategy, that is an alert that in the future the nature of the business can change again and render the business model inappropriate. Relate the detailed functions to the organization units that perform them, and produce a matrix report. At this point we create a matrix report that indicates the major organizational units and their responsibility towards the company's activities, grouped by functional areas. We must also detail the level of involvement for each of these relations. Distribute the preliminary business. Collect all notes and charts from the previous step. In this step all business functions, activities, organization units, and data entities are gathered together and numbered. Collect all notes and charts from the previous step. In this step all business functions, activities, organization units, and data entities are gathered together and numbered. Present, fully explain, and provide copies of the preliminary business model reports to management. At this point a meeting should be scheduled with the company's management in which the preliminary business model is presented and explained. This will help maintain enthusiasm in the project and support for the following phases. Explain the enterprise survey phase and obtain permission to contact people for interviews. In order to introduce the following phase to the company, We schedule a meeting with management where we explain how the enterprise survey phase works and also ask them for suggestions on who should be interviewed to best describe the company's processes.